Hi. Everybody, at the beginning of the movie a mysterious spaceship crashes on Earth, and Wendy, along with a mixed group of tactical soldiers, makes a fateful discovery that puts them face to face with the biggest threat humanity's ever known. It all kicks off explaining that the race to reach immortality has split into three main paths. First, there's the cyborgs, humans enhanced with cybernetic tech. Second, the synthetics, beings packed with advanced artificial intelligence. And last, the hybrids, entities mixing tech elements with human consciousness. Which of these models comes out on top will decide which corporation gets absolute control over the known universe. We're set in the year 2120. In this setting, there's a long-range mission planned to last 65 years headed to a part of space sitting 12,951 million kilometers from Earth. On board the Mano, a ship owned by the powerful Weyland-Yutani Corporation, the crew starts slowly waking up from cryo-sleep while sharing a meal after reanimation. The crew chats among themselves. One of them, uneasy, points out that Mr. Tang's been watching them real close during cryo. In the middle of the talk, another one explains that everybody on board works for Weyland-Yutani, a corporation that right now controls North America, South America, Mars, and Saturn. Dynamic, on the other hand, has the moon. Altogether there's four major corporations ruling the solar system. One of them's Prodigy, specializing in synthetics and artificial intelligence. It was founded just 10 years ago by a young visionary, Boy Cavalier, known as the youngest billionaire in history. The other three companies haven't been named yet. But their influence is heavy too. Curious about how long till they reach their destination, the crew asks Mr. Tang how much time's left to get to Earth. He says arrival's set for about 4 months from now, but the captain voices concern about the heavy fuel use and tells the crew, along with Mr. Tang, to check the ship's systems to see if anything can be shut down without risking the mission. One crew member suggests ditching Chibuo's specimens, releasing them into space, and shutting down the ship's zoo, since those creatures freak him out big time. The captain, who turns out to be a synthetic, reminds him the specimens are exactly the main point of the mission. Another crewmate fires back bitterly, saying it's easy for him to talk like that, being a machine because those creatures already cost him a lot of men. Later on, we see one of the crew feeding the specimens while the rest get ready to go back into cryo. Then we get a glimpse of what's coming. The specimens break free, kicking off a string of catastrophic events. We also see an alien creature running, hinting at the chaos about to blow up. Meanwhile, back on Earth, specifically on the research island Neverland owned by Prodigy, we meet Marcy Hermit, a girl with a terminal illness. There Marcy shares a private talk with her mentor, a synthetic named Kirsch, who stays by her side in the moments before a major turning point in her life. After that, we see Marcy with Dr. Dame as the two step into a highly specialized lab. Inside there's two beds, one of them taking center stage. On it lies a lifeless body that immediately catches Marcy's eye. That's when we get the weight of what's about to go down. The girl's about to become the first hybrid in history by transferring her consciousness into a synthetic body with an adult look. Right then, Boy Cavalier, the young and mysterious founder of Prodigy, shows up. He walks over to Marcy and throws her a question. You know who Neil Armstrong was? An astronaut, she answers. Just an astronaut, Boy replies solemnly. He was the first human being to set foot on the moon. And you'll be the first too, though in a completely different way. You'll be the first hybrid. Marcy, still trying to take in the weight of his words, tells Dr. Dame she wants to see her brother. The doctor gently tells her she'll see him soon, though he won't be able to see her. Marcy, with a mix of sadness and doubt, asks if that's because what they're going to do with her gotta stay secret. The doctor nods softly. Finally, Marcy lies down on one of the beds. She takes a good look at the body next to her and says it looks a lot like Wendy. Then she closes her eyes and the process kicks in. During the transfer, her mind floods with memories from her childhood, scattered images of a past she's about to leave behind. Once the transfer is done, the new entity in the adult synthetic body where Marcy's consciousness now lives is seen sitting on a mountain. Dr. Dame calls her by her new name, Wendy. Then we see her jump from a serious height, landing without a scratch. Soon we find out Wendy's got extraordinary skills, including massive strength and superhuman speed. Later Wendy meets again with Dr. Dame and Kush. They both ask her how she feels in her new body. Wendy, still thrown off, says everything feels weird while checking out her body. She admits a little embarrassed that her breasts move a lot when she runs. The doctor explains she's in an adult body now, and Wendy asks why they picked that kind. Kirch steps in saying synthetic bodies can't grow. Dr. Dame then asks her about her feelings. You feel happy or maybe sad? Wendy stays quiet for a moment before answering. I don't know. Kirch, in a teaching tone, explains that human bodies make different hormones like dopamine, serotonin, estrogen, and testosterone that regulate moods. But since she doesn't make those anymore, her emotional experience might be different. The doctor adds they've tried to mimic the hormonal processes of adolescence to help her adapt, though maybe they'll have to turn up the intensity on those simulations before leaving. The doctor tells her other kids have arrived at the facility. They'll also go through the same procedure she just went through, but they'll need guidance and emotional support to face it without fear. That's why she asked Wendy if she'd be willing to help them to guide them through this change. Can you be like a big sister to them? Dame asked her with a hopeful smile, and Wendy says yes. Wendy walks over to the kids who are also facing terminal illnesses just like she once did. She speaks to them with hope, telling them they can be just as big and strong as her. Meanwhile, Boy watches from a distance. The kids, curious, asked Wendy if she'd been sick before, and she says she was about to die. Everyone was real sad, but suddenly the boy genius showed up and gave her a second shot. He promised he'd make her good as new and gave her the body of a rejuvenated girl, even better than the original. That's how Wendy became the Eternal Girl. Intrigued, the kids ask why they don't do the same procedure with adult minds. Wendy explains that adult minds are way too rigid to adapt to that change, while children's minds can adjust easily. One girl eager asks Wendy when they'll be able to go back home, but Wendy says that going back isn't possible. There's no home to return to. Then the kids start their transformation into their new synthetic bodies already in their adult stage. Meanwhile, in space, a technical failure messes with the Maginot's navigation, sending it on a short collision course with Earth. Some specimens break loose and a full-grown xenomorph wipes out most of the crew. On the command bridge, the captain sets the ship to crash into the planet. One crew member, terrified, begs him to open the door because something's coming at her, but the captain, unfazed, locks the door tighter and ignores her. The xenomorph rushes the crew member and ends her life. The monster makes it to the control bridge where the synthetic captain's waiting. Faced with a threat, he hides in an impact pod. Just seconds later, the ship slams into Earth. The scene shifts to show us New Siam, Prodigy City. While it doesn't look too different from the world today, you can see trains running. People traveling by boat, all surrounded by towering skyscrapers. Here we meet Joe, Wendy's brother. Joe's a doctor and also a corporate soldier for Prodigy. He believes his sister's dead, but Wendy from afar can only watch him through a screen while Joe's watching an Ice Age movie. They both silently recall how they used to watch it together as kids. The next day, Joe's playing basketball with his buddies when out of nowhere everyone looks up at a ship speeding in, apparently out of control and looking like it's gonna smash into some nearby buildings. Wasting no time, Joe and a squad of soldiers head for the crash site, aiming to rescue any possible survivors at a nearby mall. When they get there, they spot the wrecked ship, and along with another unit of soldiers decide to head inside to check it out. Looking around, they realize it belongs to Weyland-Yutani and jokingly ask if maybe there's a reward for returning it. Inside the control room, the captain steps out from an escape pod. From there, he reports to the system that the ship's been boarded. Though he doesn't know the current status of the cargo, while waiting for backup, he heads for the armory to secure the ship and keep control of the situation. In another scene, we see Wendy talking with Arthur. Meanwhile, Wendy's watching New Siam security cam footage, seeing with distress the chaos the crash left behind. In the images, she spots her brother Joe. The news of the accident also reaches Boy, who right away asks if there was any survivals. They tell him there's no comms and that the main tower might have been damaged by the ship. However, they confirm there's personnel on the ground. Boy orders a staggered rescue operation according to access level, but asks that no info be released until the real scope of the damage is known. Plus, he firmly declares the ship now belongs to them. A man warns him Weyland-Yutani isn't gonna take that statement well, but Boy, showing no concern, answers with disdain. Let them sue us if they want. Given how serious things are, Wendy volunteers to join the rescue mission along with other hybrids. She explains they were made for this. They're strong, fast, and tough. He, meaning Boy, made them, and they're trained to both rescue and clean up. Boy asks why she wants to get personally involved. That's when Kirsch steps in and reveals Wendy's brother Joe is a doctor with the tactical unit and is inside the collapsed tower. Boy's briefly struck by Wendy's facial expressions, so close to human, and says anyone could swear she is. To that, Wendy answers with determination, "I am human." Finally, Boy gives the order to send the hybrids as part of the operation, aiming to see how they handle under extreme stress conditions. He demands all techs stay on high alert and keep track of their brain functions, emotions, physical responses, and performance. Kirsch objects, pointing out the hybrids still aren't fully trained and are barely prototypes, but Boy answers that in that case it'll be his job to watch them closely. Wendy runs straight to where the hybrids are to tell him a starship just crashed and in urgent rescue missions now active. Hearing the news, all the hybrids joined by Kursk get ready right away and board one of Prodigy's ships set to deploy on the ground and carry out their goal. Meanwhile, in another area, a group of soldiers reaches the specimen containment zone. There a worm-shaped creature slips around quietly and climbs up one soldier's neck. Right at that moment, the captain shows up and aims his gun at them, forcing them to give up. He takes them to the lab where he orders them to cuff themselves to a tube. One of the soldiers tries to reason with him, swearing they won't say a word if he lets him walk. He promises they'll pretend they never saw a thing. The captain, though, ignores the plea and turns to the second soldier to question him. He wants to know where Bo is. The soldier, clearly nervous, tells him he don't know. Through the control system, the captain reports the specimens are still intact and that he'll now move on to locating the fugitives. The soldiers beg him to let him go, but the captain, relentless, leaves without paying mind to their pleas. While another squad of soldiers reaches the cryo area where they find a body with a huge hole in its abdomen, the scene says it all, and aliens busted out violently from inside the corpse. Wasting no time, the soldiers start following the trail of blood left by the creature as it fled. Back in the lab, things get even worse. One of the cuffed soldiers gets attacked by the worm-shaped creature. It burrows into his body and bites down hard, ending his life. The second soldier doesn't fare any better. He's also attacked by another creature with no chance to fight back. On board the Prodigy ship, Wendy's traveling with the other hybrids. During the trip, Kurz breaks the silence with a chilling thought. He asked Wendy if she knew that back in the day, human beings were prey. He explains human life used to be short and ruled by fear. Over time, the human brain evolved. They learned to make tools to master nature, to build incredible machines, and eventually to conquer space. They thought they'd stop being prey, or at least convince themselves of it. But Kirsch says in the animal kingdom there's always something bigger or smaller that can eat you without warning. Being animal, he says, is that to be born, to live, to die? Wendy, though, refuses to accept that fate for her brother. Firmly she says Joe won't die. Kush looks at her and in a calm voice tells her that of course he'll die. Everyone dies, whether by injury, illness, old age, everyone, generation after generation. The only thing they can do, Kirsch says, is watch and record names in history, but Wendy won't back down. With determination, she says nothing will happen to Joe. She'll save him. Joe, along with the soldiers, Siberian and Rashidi, moves forward. Searching for survivors without them noticing a xenomorph trails close behind. Entering a laboratory, they find corpses in disturbing conditions. Job examines one and concludes they died from suffocation caused by toxins. Checking a screen, he discovers that one of the bodies had a strange object inside the digestive tract. The case was logged with a code, but now the object has disappeared. Despite the findings, Siberian insists on moving on. The forensic work will be someone else's job. Concerned, Joe tells Rashidi they're facing something alien. Rashidi, ironic yet tense, replies that things are looking better. Both head downstairs without noticing an alien stalking them. Meanwhile, Dr. Dame watches videos of the girl who, with excitement, says she's ready to overcome any challenge, though she admits feeling fear. She believes it'll be worth it. Boy walks in and comments that kid's got immense potential. Dame tells him they're not just seeking achievements but a transformation, helping them become the best version of themselves. Boy, thoughtful, mentions a common fear about artificial intelligence, that brilliant machines create even better ones until humans get pushed aside. He explains that Project Prodigy seeks the opposite, to maximize human potential before machines take over. It's a race of intelligence, he states. Dame asks him, and if they stop being human, what do we gain? She then adds they achieve the unthinkable, eradicating death, but now they must improve life, or they'll only create immortal consumers. Boy answers that money isn't what drives him. According to him, people usually. Millionaires only care about wealth or feeding their ego, but his real desire is different: to have a conversation with someone smarter than him. Just once he longs to reach the top of knowledge and debate with someone able to expand his mind. The doctor asks if he truly believes the kids will achieve that. He answers maybe, but at least he hopes to give Wendy a brain that works like a supercomputer, along with the training of the greatest minds in the world. Only then finally he'll be able to have a truly interesting conversation. We then see Wendy still on board the ship, accompanied by the other hybrids, Slightly, Nibs, Me, Curly, and Toodles, in the middle of the expectant silence. Slightly asks her if she thinks they'll find dead people. Wendy, firm but not harsh, asks him not to think about that. Slightly insists, and then asks what she herself is thinking about. Wendy, after hesitating a moment, quietly confides a secret. She has a brother who works as a doctor in the city, and right now he must be there trying to save lives. She's deeply worried because her brother isn't like them. He isn't premium. He can break, bleed, burn. He's vulnerable. Wendy admits it was her who insisted he should stay, and now knowing he could be hurt, she's decided to go find him. Slightly, with a mix of sadness and empathy, tells her his father died of the flu, and that they cremated him soon after. Sometimes he wonders if he was really dead or if they burned him without being sure. The thought haunts him. At that moment, Kirch interrupts to order them to get ready. Slightly trying to comfort Wendy, tells her not to worry, that they'll find her brother. Smee, curious, asks who they're talking about. Slightly answers naturally, Wendy's brother, he's a doctor. Wendy's surprised and uncomfortable, scolds him right away. It was supposed to be a secret. Meanwhile, inside the building, Joe's group faces a new difficulty. The stairs are destroyed with no other option. Rashidi decides to jump across the gap, followed closely by Siberian. The latter nearly loses her balance on landing, but Rashidi grabs her just in time, saving her from falling. Only Joe remains to cross, but he freezes. The jump scares him. At that moment, looking upward, he notices an opening in the ceiling and something moves in the shadows. He quickly aims his weapon just as an alien emerges from the darkness and attacks him instinctively. Joe throws himself into the void to escape, but he slams against the concrete and crashes hard onto the lower floor. Despite the impact, he manages to get on his feet quickly and starts running through the hallways while the alien chases him relentlessly. Finally, Joe reaches an elevator and manages to step in just in time to shut the doors. Now save. He tries to contact the rest of the team through the radio but gets no answer. Only the sound of his ragged breathing fills the small metallic space. Next, we are shown a flashback. One day earlier, Joe is at the administrative offices to follow up on his resignation request. However, the system informs him he still has 7 months left on his active contract. Joe clarifies that he's not asking for a permanent discharge, but for a special leave, since he made a promise to his father before he passed away. He would return to his medical studies. It is then we discovered that his father died the previous year. This whole exchange is quietly observed by Wendy through a monitor, but while she watches, she is also being watched. Some team members comment that maybe it was a mistake to give her access to those transmissions, since it seems to distract her. However, the doctor insists that on the contrary, it comforts her and grants her a meaningful emotional connection. Joe continues explaining he's been accepted into a medical program on Mars and that classes start in barely a month. He pleads they consider his request, that they act with compassion, or in an ironic tone they'll have to face his fury. This expression provokes in Wendy an immediate association with a character from the Ice Age, which drives her to step in and briefly reply to her brother. Arthur, one of the supervisors, is surprised. He points out that Wendy has rewritten the system code somehow to be able to interact. Boy asks if that ability was intentionally granted by the development team. Arthur answers, no. Wendy is connected to Prodigy's network only for monitoring purposes, but they never imagined she could alter the system on her own. Meanwhile, back to the scene with Joe, the system rejects his leave request. He is obliged to comply with the time set in his contract and is immediately reassigned to a new location back in the. As the ship carrying the hybrids lands on the surface, Wendy, thanks to her sharpened hearing, detects the distinct sound of the aliens. However, she seems to be the only one who hears it. The others perceive nothing unusual. The team leader approaches Kush to inform him that the tower they must inspect has 80 floors above the surface and 20 underground levels. At that moment, communications are completely down. He also shares his growing concern the gas filling some areas could ignite. The ship's fuel is unstable. The ammunition represents a critical risk, and not to mention the radiation exposure. But above all, what troubles him most is that they were promised reinforcements and instead only those people were sent. While the chief lists his concerns, Wendy begins to manipulate the ship's interface, altering the surveillance camera feeds around her slightly and Smee play without paying much attention. Kirsch, trying to calm the situation, assures the chief that his group is part of a special unit directly under the founder of Prodigy's command. The chief then asks what exactly Wendy is doing. Kirsch, instead of answering directly, shows interest in the team's status and asks if among the ones sent there is. Doctor, they inform him, yes, that one was assigned to Rashidi's squad, but they have not reported since the mission began. After a meticulous search through the surveillance channels, Wendy finally locates Joe through one of the building's cameras. He is trapped inside an elevator standing on the 65th floor. Without wasting time, Wendy decides to go after him. Kirsch, noticing her determination, orders Slightly to go with her to protect her. To the rest of the hybrids, he assigns the task of staying with him, assessing the structural damage of the facility and collecting all relevant data for later analysis. On the other hand, Boy is pleased because the hybrids are sending data, but his assistant informs him Yutani is calling. Yutani tells him today has been a very costly day. Boy nods without mentioning the loss of lives. Yutani states he has something that belongs to them. Boy replies that to be fair, it fell from the sky and destroyed one of his buildings. Yutani points out that he will receive compensation and that he only needs to send the bill. Boy comments he has men securing the site and asks if there is something he should know. However, she only clarifies that the ship was studying deep space and that everything inside belongs to her, so she requests permission to send a team to secure the ship and recover what is theirs. Boy responds he cannot authorize something like that yet since the tower is unstable. Utai insists, but Boy warns that any intrusion into Prodigy territory will be considered a hostile act. That's what the lawyers are for. So Hers talk with his and negotiate a treaty, then he cuts the call. Boy, excited, tells his assistant he wants what is inside that ship. Meanwhile, Wendy again hears the alien noise while Kirsch and the other hybrids enter the ship. Suddenly Nibs comments that she misses taking baths. Kirsch orders them to keep moving, that fear is for animals, and they are not. In that place, they find a kind of plant. Nibs wants to leave, and Curly suggests destroying it, but Toodles approaches and says, "Scientists don't kill." Kirsch warns him to be careful. It is an alien species, and they do not know what it is capable of. Then he tells Curly to take Nibs and Smee to find something to capture it. They enter the room where the soldiers were eliminated by the worm-shaped creatures. One of them is still feeding on a body but flees when it sees them. As they go deeper, they discover more creatures, including a cat drinking from a pool of blood. The scene turns darker when the cat's eye falls out, beginning to move on its own. It looks like an octopus with several pupils. The eye octopus attacks Nibs, but she breaks free and the others manage to trap it. Wendy and Slightly reach the stairs where Joe had been. There they find his backpack and then the xenomorph's claw marks on the wall. Meanwhile, Joe tries to locate his team without success until someone approaches him. It is the soldier Bergerfeld. The soldier asks where the hell everybody is. There are no communications and it looks like the whole building is about to collapse. Joe asks him if he has seen any big animal, but Bergerfeld says he has seen nothing. Then they hear noises, they bang on a door, and a man comes out. They are some nails throwing a party there, unaware that a ship crashed on top of them. They refuse to evacuate, arguing that if something serious had happened, Boy would have told them since they belong to the same social circle. Joe notices the alien is hiding inside a sculpture behind Bergerfeld. He tells the soldier to step aside. Bergerfeld turns and comes face to face with the alien, who takes him out instantly. The millionaire storms out angry at the noise, and the alien enters the room and wipes out all the guests at the party. Joe is about to suffer the same fate as everyone at the party, but he is saved by Captain Morrow, who electrocutes both him and the xenomorph. Then Morrow applies a liquid over the alien to create a kind of cocoon or membrane, aiming to trap it and take it away. On the other hand, Toodles and Kirsch observe the plant and comment that although it manifests as flora, it could actually be fauna. Afterward, Kirsch meets with the other hybrids. Smee informs him they caught a creature that was inside the cat. Kirsch tries to open the container, but Nib stops him. Approaches a monitor and discovers the ship has been collecting specimens. Smee asks if those specimens are still alive. Meanwhile, Mara prepares to use the elevator to transport the alien, but some soldiers stop him since they must evaluate the safety of the building. Mara explains he thought of using the elevator because the stairs are blocked. One of the soldiers asks what he is carrying, and he replies only supplies. Suddenly the alien moves. They try to arrest Mara, but the alien wakes up and eliminates the soldiers, leaving Mao alive. Kirsch finds in the system a location where alien eggs are stored, so he asks me to head there since he will send Wendy to secure the zone and prevent entry until the biosafety team arrives. Joe wakes up and sees a baseball that brings back memories of his father when together they watched football games. At that moment, Wendy and Slightly appear. Though Joe does not know she is his sister in another body, then he discovers Slightly is synthetic just like Wendy. The three leave the place since Wendy has received direct orders from Kirch to move to the front section of the ship where SME awaits her to secure or a critical cargo invasive specimens that represent a risk since they could escape and reproduce without control. While they advance through the corridor, Slightly reveals to Joe a shocking secret. Wendy is in fact his sister Marcy. He explains that both were gravely ill children and that their consciousnesses were transferred to synthetic bodies as the only option for survival. Wendy, for her part, confesses to Joe that she has been constantly watching him through the system screens and that everything that happened is in a way her responsibility. He wanted to go to Mars and she was the one who stopped him. Joe cannot process what he hears. His father had told him Marcy had died. Wendy then explains that when she became sick, she received a visit from the boy genius who offered her father a solution. He could save her, but he had to take her away. Since then, she has lived under the care of Kirsch and Dame. Joe, confused, tries to understand, and Wendy clarifies it was the only way to survive and that nobody could know because it was an absolute secret. The boy genius assured her father she would be fine, though she could never returns. Hurries them, reminding that time is limited. They continue moving through the ship while Joe asks Wendy questions to confirm her identity. She answers each one precisely until he finally recognizes her as his sister. Both stop a moment and hug each other tightly. Arriving at the place, they find the alien eggs. Wendy hears the sounds they emit while Boy watches them closely from a remote screen. Joe approaches an egg. Right then, the alien appears, drags him violently and takes him away. Wendy runs after him without hesitation. Like and subscribe for more interesting movie like this. Turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.